Hi guys, in this tutorial we're going to learn how to create a realistic Shaggy style carpet in Blender and Cycles. So let's get straight into it. The first thing that we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and get rid of this cube since we don't need it. So right click to select it and then hit X, delete. Then we want to go ahead and add in a plane. So all you need to do is go ahead and hit Shift A, Mesh Plane, just like so. Then what we want to do is want to scale it out a little bit to become the shape of a carpet. Carpets tend to be more rectangular in shape rather than square. So we're going to go ahead and hit S, X, and then just scale it out to about that much. It really depends on you how wide you want your carpet to be. So I want to create mine to be around this size over here. Once you've done that, tab into edit mode and then go ahead and hit W, subdivide. Go ahead and click on this little arrow over here and change the number of cuts to 10. Okay, since we're going to go ahead and add some modifiers to smooth and add some thickness, we want to add in some loop cuts around here just to tighten things up. This will make sense a little bit later on. So all you need to do is go ahead and hit Control R on your keyboard, left click and drag close to the edge for each of the sides. So Control R, left click over here, Control R, left click, drag over here, and Control R, left click, drag over here, until you have all four corners done. Alright, now tap out of edit mode and let's go to the modifiers tab in the properties window. Go add modifier and select the subdivision surface. So this will just smooth out the carpet a little bit. We can't really see what's going on, but we can just see the corners have just smoothed out a little bit. Next up, go ahead and add another modifier. Add modifier. This time I want to choose to use a displace modifier. So where's there it is, the displace modifier. Go ahead and click new texture and we're just going to call it general, I don't know, like carpet bump or something. Doesn't matter, just name it whatever you like. I'm also going to go ahead and change from local to UV, and may as well go ahead and set up the UV map now while we're at it. So in the UV editing tab, go ahead and click that, go to the top view and then select all the vertices over here, hit U and then project from view. And then in this view over here, just select everything by hitting A and then just scale up until it covers the entire mesh. So once you've done that, tab out of edit mode, go back to the modeling tab. We're now going to start off by adding a little bit of a bump to our carpet texture. So just to give a bit more variation to our carpet rather than just having a very flat surface. So for the bump, I'm just going to go now and go to the carpet bump texture. So let's change to the texture tab of the properties window. And we already have carpet bump loaded up here conveniently for us. If it isn't, just go ahead and select the texture over there. Change the type from image or movie to clouds. And you get something that looks like that. You can play around with the size, but I found the default is actually okay. So I'll stick with the 0.25. Maybe even go a little bit smaller than that. Yeah, maybe 0.15 is okay. Depth, yeah, we can keep adding something like that. But I think, yeah, the default should be fine. It's just to add a little bit of variation to our carpet. So let's go back to the modifiers panel and let's change the strength to something really low, maybe like 0.1. Yeah, something like 0.1 will be good. And also I'll just bump this subdivision up so that we get a bit more variation. And I think that is looking okay. So next thing that we want to do is we want to add a bit of thickness to our carpet. Since we have a Shaggy style carpet, the carpet itself, the base itself, tends to have a bit of thickness as well. So let's go and add a modifier, and this time we're going to choose the solidify modifier. And also for this one, the default is okay. I might just bump it up a little, maybe to 0.02. Yeah, something like that should be fine. Okay, so just to finish it off, let's go ahead and add one more modifier, again the subdivision surface, just to smooth the overall carpet itself. And I think the final carpet is now done. So I think there's maybe a little bit too much variation, so I might just tone down the strength a bit more. Yeah, something like that. Just make it really, really subtle. Okay, so we have something that looks like that. And then once we're done with that, I'm just going to go ahead and apply all these modifiers. So let's apply this subdivision, let's apply this displacement, and let's apply that solidify. We'll keep the last subdivision itself. Don't want to change much of that. Okay, once we're there, we also want to go ahead and select all the top faces. Now to set the top faces is a little bit challenging now that we added a bit of variation. I mean, one thing you could try is maybe double tap A, turn on this one, and then somehow select just the top faces like so, and ignoring the bottom faces. But I found that was a bit challenging, so the best way that I tended to find was just deselect everything, go to the top view, just go to face select mode, select some two middle faces around here where the center point is, then just go Control plus 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 on your numpad and just try to select all the top faces that way. And I think that'll cover up everything. Yes, it does. So yeah, just where you find this your center point of your model, just select the faces around it and hit Control plus plus plus. The point is we don't want to select any of the bottom faces or any of these side faces as well. Okay, so once you've done that, go ahead and go to the object data tab of the properties window and go ahead and click new vertex group over here by hitting this plus sign. Double click this one and let's call this the carpet area. And let's go ahead and assign this a weight of 1. So in other words, when you go from object mode to weight paint mode, you'll see that this carpet area has a weight of 1, which is shown in red, and a weight of 0, which is shown in blue over here. So we're going to use this red area to grow out the carpet strands from. Okay, so now that that's done, let's finally finish up. We have a bit of weird artifact going on here. So just to smooth everything out, let's go to Object, Shade, Smooth, so that we get something that looks like that. So already we're getting a nice looking carpet. Now it's time for the fun part, adding in the carpet strands. So to do so, let's change to this tab over here, the Particles tab. We're going to be using the particle system to grow out our carpet strands. So go ahead and hit New over here once you go to the particle system, and then change over from emitter to hair. And straight away you'll see that we have lots and lots of hair strands growing out of our carpet in random directions. Just to make it easier, I'm just going to rename this from plain to carpet so that we know what we're looking at. Okay, so first thing we need to do is, just like we added the weight in this tab over here for the carpet area, we want to grow out the particles only in that area. We don't want to grow underneath our carpet or on the sides of our carpet. Only want it to grow on the top. So in the particle settings, I want to go down to where it says vertex groups, expand that, change the density to carpet area, and straight away you'll see that it's disappeared from the bottom and the sides. And we also want to change the length as well to the carpet area, and I guess the clump as well to the carpet area, and this one as well. I mean, it doesn't really matter, but I'm going to be playing around with these settings anyway. Okay, so once you've done that, next thing I want to do is we want to play with the height of the carpet area. So go ahead and tick advanced. Also, let's change the hair length down, so put it to about the length that you want your strands to be. I found that a value of 0.03 tends to be okay for my case. So let me just rotate and have a look at it. Yeah, something like that tends to be quite good. Okay, so once you've done that, that's looking good so far. We can bump up the numbers, but I think I'll do that last. We want to now try and make our carpet have a bit of curvature, a bit of bending going on. So the secret to doing that is in the physics tab. Just change the Brownian value over here, and let's just change it to something that looks nice. 0.02 is okay. I might make it even more subtle than that. 0.012. Yeah, just make it very subtle like so. Okay, so next thing we want to do is we want to play around with the variation of the height of each carpet strand. We don't want each strand to be equal size. We want to have some variation there. So to do so, I think it's in the velocity, we play around with that. So we can turn up the, oh, that's not the right one. I think, oh yeah, it is randomized actually. Yeah, okay, we can turn up the randomization, but when I do it like that, it's going really, really crazy, so I have to be even more subtle with it. Maybe I might go 0.01, no, maybe even smaller than that. 0.00, let's say 0.002. Yeah, I think something like that is okay. So yeah, we'll stick with a randomized value of 0.002, and we're now starting to get some nice looking variations in our carpet strand. If you zoom in, you'll notice that the strands look a little bit blocky. It doesn't look very smooth. We want to get a more smoother kind of a curvature going on. So in order to do that, under viewport display, I found that you need to turn up the strand steps, so you get a nicer, curvature going on over there. I guess we can over here we can also turn on B-spline. That can also make it look nicer. Okay, so at this point we're done with the sort of the overall shape of how we want our strands to look. So the secret to getting that nice furry, warm, fuzzy look is really in clumping. So in order to get that clumping effect, we're going to make use of children. So if I just scroll down, you'll see a tab for children. Go ahead and expand that, and we're going to use the interpolated one. So just to give a brief on what this does, what children does, if you don't know already, for each particle that's over here, so if I turn off children for a second, for each of these strands over here, it will add a bunch of children around it. So it will add a bunch of children around the parent strand, if that makes sense. So if I go interpolated right now, we can see that's showing a display amount of 10 and a render amount of 100. So 10 means there are 10 child strands around the parent strand, and when you render it, there's going to be 100. So you can expect to see a lot more denser, a denser fur when you render it out. Okay, so over here we can play around with the settings to clump everything together to get a nicer shape. So under clumping over here in the children settings, let's go ahead and bump that up to maybe close to 1. Yeah, maybe something around there, 0.774, and we get a nicer clump. Or if I do it the other way around, actually maybe I might go the other way around. It tends to look better when, for carpet at least, it tends to look better rather than clumping in this kind of direction. We clump it out in this kind of a direction, like so. It tends to look nicer. For the shape, we can play around with different type of shape. Maybe I might go a more wider look, like so. But yeah, you can play around with that. For the roughness, I generally don't tend to like to touch this area. It's not. It tends to make everything look a lot messy. But maybe I can play around with these settings. And we just make it very subtle, the changes. Yeah, but I'm not really comfortable playing around with this roughness setting, so I'll just leave it the way it is, really. Finally, for kink, I might change this from nothing to curl. And you'll see that it goes quite crazy. So that you can turn that down using the amplitude. So I might go from, let's just start off with 0, and I just want to start from the beginning, shift, left click, and then just drag out until it gets the sort of shape that I want to get. So maybe something like that. Carpets don't always tend to look nice and smooth, it tends to look quite messy. So I'll go with something that looks like that. The frequency, you can play around with that. I'm not really doing much in this case, so I don't know, I'll just leave it like that. Okay, so at this stage I'm quite happy with the way the carpet looks. Let's just have a quick look at how this will look when rendered. But before that, I'm going to go ahead and save my work. Oh, one more little setting I need to do before I go ahead and render it out. I'm just going to go ahead and change this length to maybe 0.8. So what this will do, for all the children, it'll render it out as 80% of its original length. So that's one way to add some height variation to our carpet. For the threshold, I'll probably bump this up to maybe 0.1. So 0.1 is like 10%. So basically it's saying 10% of those children will ignore this rule, this 80% rule. So you might have some random children having even bigger height. So just to add some extra variation to it. Okay, so now we can go ahead and start to render this carpet out. So let's just go over to the render tab over here, and currently you'll notice that it's set on Eevee. We need to change this to cycles, since cycles at the moment is the best when it comes to rendering realistic fur. Maybe in the future Eevee might do a really good job as well. I think there's some demos where Eevee does a good job, but at the time of recording I couldn't really pull it off. So I'm going to change from Eevee to cycles. And now we're going to change the viewport shading from solid to this one over here, the rendered viewport. So click that, and straight away you'll see what your carpet looks like right now. It looks horrible. So we need to go ahead and fix that. So we'll start off with materials. So for this one, I guess I'll go to the shading tab and change this to the rendered view. and let's just save our work. Okay, so I want to go ahead and add 2 materials to this. So let's go to the material tab. Let's create the first material, call it the carpet, I don't know, base, I guess. This will be just for this base over here, the bottom part. Then we're going to create a new material and call it the carpet fur. So that's going to be for just the strands itself. For the base, I'm just going to give it a sort of getting close to black kind of a color, since we're not really going to see this in the final render, so it doesn't really matter too much. But for the fur, we might go for a slightly light grayish kind of color. And we also want to render out the strands using this fur. But at the moment it's rendering it out as the base, which is incorrect. So we need to change that in the particle settings as well. So let's go to the particle settings, and under, I think it's the render, we're going to change the material from carpet base to carpet fur. So now we can see it being rendered out using the carpet fur texture. Also, while we're here in the particle settings, we need to change how this strands look. It doesn't look right. They don't look like carpet strands. So we need to change this shape. So to do that, in the particle settings, you'll see one entry called hair shape. Go ahead and expand that. And we need to change the radius root to be something really, really low. I found 0.2 to be quite good, and the tip of 0.1 to be good. We don't want it to be fully going tapering into nothingness. We want it to be a little bit fat all the way through and then ending quite nicely. So something like that would be quite good. Maybe I might expand this to 0.3, make it a little bit more fatter. But for the most part, I think that's okay. Now let's just keep it at maybe 0.22. Yeah, I think that's looking quite good. Okay, and next up, let's just increase the number of strands. Well, I might bump it up to 3,000. Alright, so something like that. Alright, so now it's time to look more like a carpet. But the material of the carpet is not looking right. So let's go ahead and change the material of the carpet fur itself. So with the carpet fur selected, I'm going to go ahead and Control C to copy the color over here. So just hover over the color and hit Control C, remove the principled BSDF, then Shift A, shader, and we're going to use the principled hair BSDF. And then plug the BSDF into the surface output, and then change this color over here. So hover over this color and go Control V to bring that color in. And I don't quite like the look of the hair, that's the hair color that we're getting over here. So I'm just going to turn up the roughness quite a lot, and also the radial roughness as well. And then it starts to look more like a proper hair. We can add a little bit of coating, I guess, but yeah, it doesn't matter too much. So let's just give this a render just to see how this looks. Oh no, it's not looking good. We're getting too much strands all together in one area. I mean, it is looking fuzzy, but it's not looking that good. So I need to go ahead and reduce the number of children that we're putting around each parent. So to do that, maybe I might just reduce a few things. In the particle settings, just turn this one down to 2000 and turn the children, if I can find it, down to about, say, 50. And let's render that and see what it looks like. Okay, so we have something that looks like that, which is quite good. So I know there's a lot of empty spots over there, but don't worry, I'm going to go ahead and fill those up with yet another particle system. So this is purely just to add more variation to our carpet, just to give it a bit more texture and to make it look a little bit more interesting. So to do it is quite easy, but we're going to require a little bit of duplicated work. So go to the particle system panel and then go ahead and click this plus icon over here. I want to call this one, we'll go to the original one, we'll name this one the white fur or the white strands. And for particle system 2, we're going to copy the white strands and then hit this 2 over here to duplicate it. And this one we'll call it the black strands. Okay, so all the settings here are copied over, so we don't need to do anything to it. The only thing we need to do is change over the material. So in the material tab, let's go ahead and click this plus icon to create a new material, hit new, and we're going to use the carpet fur material and then hit number 2 over here. I guess I didn't hit new there, but anyways, we'll call this one carpet fur black. And the only difference here is I'm just going to change the color. Everything else is being copied over, like the principal hair shader and the roughness settings and everything. That's all copied over. So I'm just going to make this one significantly darker, maybe something like that. And in the particle tab, I want to change for particle system 2, I want to change from the material from carpet fur to carpet fur black. So if I go in the viewport, we can't really see anything going on. That's because it's since I duplicated the particle system, it's overlaying the second particle system exactly on top of the first particle system. All we need to do is change the seed value over here. Just hit that, and then straight away we should be able to see our new particle system. And I think that should be good to go. So it's quite invisible, but I think in the render it should be clearer. So let's give that a quick render and see what that looks like. Okay, so it's looking quite good, but there's still some empty spots over here, so I might bump up the black strands a lot more so that it covers those areas. So let me just do that real quick. In particle systems 2, let's just change this one to 3000 and the children to maybe 65 or something. Just made up those values there. Just make sure that the field weights, sorry, not the field weights, the vertex groups, oh sorry, the vertex groups have to be copied over as well. It didn't copy over the carpet area the first time, so let me just do that real quick as well. I think that should look even better. Okay, so there should be nothing on the bottom. Yep, as expected. And we can see a little bit of that new strand coming through now. So let's give that a quick render and see what that looks like. And there we go. That's looking really cool. We're getting that nice looking texture. It's looking warm and fuzzy, and our carpet looks a lot more interesting. So that's perfect. Let's just render this out using better lighting just to see what it looks like. So for the lighting, I'm going to change over, let's just go back to solid mode. Let's change this lighting over here to maybe just a sun lamp. For the final carpet scene render that you see in the thumbnail previews, that's in the dining table video. So if you go ahead and check out that video, you'll see that carpet being used in a proper render using HDR lighting and all of that other photorealistic stuff. But I'm not going to focus on photorealistic lighting in this tutorial or any of that stuff. Just purely just rendering a carpet. So I'm just using a normal sun lamp. We're bumping up the strength to about 10. That's it. Let's just see what that looks like when rendered. And that's it. That's the final result of our carpet. Perfect to use straight away in any realistic kind of indoor scene. I hope this video has been useful to you. If you like this video and want to see more of it, please go ahead and like, share and subscribe. And I hope to see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.